So before we get into the details of downloading the software and pairing it up with Cisco iOS images and everything else that's involved with that, I just want to take a step back for a moment and talk a little bit about GNS3 from the standpoint of, is it a simulator or is it an emulator, and what's the difference? And quite frankly, why should I care what the difference is? Now, GNS3, even though it does have the word simulator in it, graphical network simulator, the word simulator is in there because it's really simulating network topologies. It's allowing you to build network topologies without the real hardware and the real cables in front of you. So that's where it's really simulating things. But GNS3 itself is actually what we call an emulator. Now, what's the difference? Well, and when we say that something is an emulator, that means that software is running an actual network operating system. It's actually running, in this particular case, the real Cisco iOS image, or maybe the June OS image, or whatever other images you import into it. What's the difference between that and a simulator? Well, a simulator is a program that was built from scratch to sort of look and feel like the software, but it's not really the software. For example, way back when you were first learning about, let's say, Microsoft Windows, let's take that as an example. There's some software out there that you can, on a CD, plug into your CD-ROM drive or your DVD-ROM drive of your laptop, and it will bring up a window that looks like Microsoft Windows. And for tutorial purposes, it'll say, okay, move your mouse over here and click on this button. Move your mouse over here and click over here. So it's a software that's built to look like Windows, but it's very limited, right? Maybe it only allows you to hit start and run, or maybe it only allows you to click this particular icon, but all the various things that Windows can do, it can't do because a simulator is not the real software. So I'm sure you're familiar with a lot of simulation platforms out there, especially when you're studying for your Cisco certification exams. A lot of simulations out there, but what's one key component that they all have in common that's kind of difficult? They don't give you access to all the commands. There's a lot of stuff that you can't do in simulators because Cisco iOS is huge. It's massive. It's hundreds of thousands of lines of code, and a simulator just can't come close to that. But GNS3 is an emulator. In other words, GNS3 provides the platform where you import your actual Cisco iOS images, real Cisco iOS that would run on a real router. And then GNS gives you a nice GUI, a nice front end that runs those iOS images. So actually, whatever those iOS images support, whatever commands, whatever debugs, whatever show commands they support, you now get in GNS3. It's not just a simple, very generic vanilla simulation program. It is actually emulating real Cisco iOS. So that is why when you're using GNS3, you have to somehow have access to a Cisco iOS image because it's going to require that. So that's all I want to talk about in this section about the difference between a simulator and an emulator. And hopefully I've gotten across to you the idea that an emulator is much more powerful, gives you a full set of the features. It's the exact same thing. You are using the exact same software as you would use in a real environment with real hardware. So in the next section, we're going to start talking about considerations. Once you've got this opportunity to select various iOS images, what are some of the things you have to think about? Because you want to make sure you select the correct one and put it in GNS3 so everything works according to your specifications and your needs. And we'll talk about that in the next set of videos.